So can we start? Okay. Cool. So welcome to my talk. So to give you a little bit of context of why I've created this talk is basically because the Scrum Guide is quite a short document, right? It's around, I don't know, half a dozen, dozen 16 pages. And it basically only describes the Scrum framework, and it's quite a lightweight framework. And it has obviously a lot of empty spaces for you to fill, like for instance estimates, so how are you going to do with your requirements, all that sort of stuff. So since I believe that everybody that starts with Scrum has a lot of doubts, okay, so what should I do in this case? Should I use user stories? How should I write them? So basically everything that's not mentioned on the Scrum Guide, I created this presentation to kind of explain or sum up like the good advices that I usually give to all the teams that I work with. So I think that the majority of you already know me, or at least some. My name is Pedro. I would like to write more on my blog, but I write sometimes, but I would like to write a little bit often. On Twitter, I don't write anything at all, but since everybody puts the Twitter in there you go, that's mine. So yes, I started being or doing, whatever you want to call it, Agile and Scrum since 2010. So basically I got so excited that I took all these certifications, so some from Scrum Alliance that is sponsoring the event today, and one from Scrum.org. So when I was doing this presentation, I got curious about how many of us were here in Portugal with holding certifications. And I was quite surprised to see how many Scrum Masters we have, at least certified Scrum Masters we have here in Portugal. So we are more than 300, so that's quite a lot. Product owner, we have very, very few, it's like just 58 certified product owners. That's we don't have enough. Thinking in the way that a Scrum Master and a product owner per team, definitely we should have more than we have right now. So certified Scrum Professional, we are just 4 in the whole country, okay? So that's quite a shame. And I don't have a clue how many of us are actually professional Scrum Master because it's not mentioned on the website. So today, still, I work at Blip, but I'm actually between jobs. So starting in June, I'm moving to Sonai, and basically it's like a big change for me, obviously. But let me tell you that it's a really good sign to have such a big company having the will to embrace Agile and Scrum. It's a big sign of change. So having a company like Sonai, right? Because obviously all of you have the context, but Scrum usually is like here in Portugal for small companies, startup, young companies, and now having like a huge company embracing this, it's really good. I know also that CTT and Zurich Insurance are also moving towards Agile and Scrum, so that's a good sign. Portugal is changing, and it's good. So this sort of event is actually working. That's awesome. Okay, so a little bit of kind of an icebreaker. So now that you know who I am, I'm taking here the opportunity to tell you who I'm not, since people usually confuse me with sons of guys. So the first one is, I'm not this guy. Okay, so Portuguese comedian. I'm not him. I'm not this guy also, okay, the actor from Heroes and Star Trek. And actually, if you Google for my name, you'll find this guy, that is basically a Mexican TV producer. And if you try to narrow the search to just Portuguese content, you'll find this. So hopefully the guy, not the horse. But yeah, so we are a lot of Pedro Torres around here. So yeah, I'm not none of them. Cool. So this talk here is dedicated to my teams at Blip. So the teams that I think that I learned more than I could actually teach them. So that's a good sign. So that's my dedication to them. So yeah, let's start. So user stories. Who here uses user stories? Obviously, assuming that you're working with Scrum. So good. It has a wide adoption, right? So user stories are really cool, mainly because of 2 important things. So one is completely focused on the user, right? So every requirement that you create, that you're going to write, it's always thinking towards the user and the benefits of the user. And the second big advantage is that it brings a common language to the table. So usually you have always more than one Scrum team, more than one product owner. So if everybody writes the requirements on the exact same way, or at least with the same structure, it will be easier for everybody to understand what's being asked of. So user stories as a pattern is something that is good. Estimations. So you have like the three most common flavors. One is T-shirt sizes, the other one is ideal days, and you have the story points. So I've worked with all of them. T-shirt sizes are a little bit tricky to understand your capacity or your velocity, because it's not easy to sum sizes, okay? So what's your capacity? Like 3 L's and 2 M's, okay, so what about an XS? So doesn't work that well. Ideal days work, but what I usually find on ideal days is that it leads a little bit to micromanagement, because a user story of 2 days, everybody hopes that user story is completed after 2 days. And that obviously brings unnecessary pressure to the team. And finally, story points. So story points, in theory, are quite hard to explain. At least whenever I explain to someone that never heard about story points, it's really hard to get, because basically story points are complex estimate-based and not time-based. But it's quite easy in practice, because, okay, so if we grab a really easy requirement and we'll give it a 1, so looking to this new one, how much more complex it is? About the same, so it's a 1. 2 times more complex, it's a 2, and so on and so forth. So it's basically comparison. So it's probably easier to estimate with points and trying to be so much accurate with time, right? So like, oh no, 2 days, 3 days, I don't know. So story points usually work quite well, more in practice than in theory. So what about size? Yes, so size matters definitely, in a lot of places here as well. But here is the smaller the better. So I'm a huge fan of small user stories, mainly because small user stories are much less complex, are easier to estimate, are probably easier and quickly to implement, and that's good because you can actually find a flow, a pace within your sprint. So size is something that is quite important. Usually what I say to my teams is, if we don't have anything completed by the end of the first week of a sprint, something is wrong. And that can only be possible if you have small user stories. If you have like a huge user story, it will never be completed by the end of the first week of your sprint. So try always to have user stories completed by the end of the first sprint. Obviously not working harder, but working smarter with small user stories. Tasks. Who here uses tasks? Yeah, so pretty much everyone that uses user stories. So this might come as a shock to you. I don't like tasks. I'm okay with them, so I can understand that people use these tasks, but a little bit like we heard on the previous talk, focus on the outcome and not on the process. If you don't see value in tasks, you shouldn't do them. So basically task is kind of breaking down the work of a user story, but again, if the user story, the scope, is completely understood, if we know exactly what needs to be implemented, what is the trade-off? So what are we actually getting so good on tasks? Probably not that much, and we are actually wasting a lot of time creating them and then updating them on Rally or on Jira, and it doesn't bring a lot of value, at least in my perspective. Using my lean hat, I think it's waste. So the thing is, if you like them, you should stick to them. But again, if you're just doing it just for the sake of it, might as well just drop them, because I assure you that the user story will be completed no matter what. You have the definition of done, so you won't forget testing, code reviews, all that sort of stuff. So probably tasks are a little bit kind of unnecessary, in my opinion. Estimating tasks, whoa, this is even worse. So people usually estimate tasks in hours. And again, I understand that you need to estimate user stories because you want to create a roadmap, you want to know where you are at the end of a quarter, and so on and so forth. But again, estimating tasks, who cares if a task is going to take 1 hour to be completed or 7 hours? Okay, and who assures me that the one that is putting there 1 hour is going to be the exact same person that is going to pick up that task? Probably it's not. So basically what you're using with these hours here in task is that you're getting metrics that are misleading. In Lean Startup you call it like vanity metrics, because it's just kind of to make you feel good because you're burning down hours and you say, oh no, I'm doing so much work, and in fact Probably you're not. Like, the work is completed whenever you finish a user story, so no one cares if you're actually completing a lot of hours, because the user story is an on and off switch, or it is completed or not. So exclamations in tasks, to me, it's quite unnecessary. And even worse, if you actually put the hours that you consume on tasks, because those are basically timesheets, and that, to me, it's completely nonsense, because what's the outcome of that? Who actually goes by the end of the month or the end of the sprint and is going to look, oh, I estimated this in 5 hours and it actually took me 7. So what? So we are not that good at estimating, but then again, are we developing software, or are we being professionals of giving estimates? So I don't like them. Now looking a little bit on the sprint side, so length. Well, back in the days when Scrum started, everybody talked about 4-week sprint. And back then it was a major breakthrough, because if you have the idea that people, whenever they started a project, would only see something working after like half a year or a year, having something working after a month was awesome. Nowadays, obviously, it is not enough. The new flavors, or the most recent flavors, is 1, 2, and 3 weeks. I work with them all. 1 week, to me, is way too short, or at least quite aggressive, because remember, you need to have planning, grooming, retrospective, review, stand-ups, and you actually need to do the code all in 1 week. So that gives you probably like 3 days of decent programming. That's way too short. 3 weeks, it's way too much. It's like, okay, so I'm on a retrospective, I need to remember everything that happened on the last few weeks, or I'm on planning, I need to commit to 3 weeks of work. That's huge. That doesn't make sense. So in my opinion, like the sweet spot is definitely the 2 weeks, and it's probably where you should start. Commitment. Don't commit lightly to stuff. One thing that I usually saw was that people, when they were on planning, and that's it's like human nature, we are really over optimistic. So we commit to everything, and we think that everything is going to be fine, so we can go a little bit even further. And usually what happens is that stuff doesn't happen like we want to, so we won't deliver everything that we committed. So imagine, we set expectations at the beginning of the sprint, and at the end, we don't deliver 1, 2, maybe even 3 user stories, and that's not good. That's not healthy for the team. People start to get uncomfortable and stressed. So watch out for what you commit to, and make sure that you're going to deliver what you commit. Yes, sometimes you deliver more, and sometimes you deliver less. That's life. But again, be cautious when you're committing to stuff. Progress of a sprint. So usually what people do to track the progress, and since you guys use tasks, is okay, I'm burning down hours and I'm seeing my progress. Again, I don't like that. I like to track the progress on story points. Because if you look into the Agile Manifesto, the real measure of progress is working software. So when you complete a task, usually you don't have working software, because you're in the middle of a user story. So as soon as you complete a user story, you have working software, and that to me is progress. So forget about having a burn down with hours, because again, it can say a lot, it probably doesn't say anything at all. So stick to what actually is the truth, and that is burning story points. In progress versus complete. So to me, I see that people love to put user stories in progress, because like, okay, so we are doing work. Yes, we have tons of stuff in progress. But again, in progress doesn't mean anything. Having something in progress or not even started, it's almost, and I'm saying almost, the same thing. Everybody that is looking into your sprint only cares about 2 states of a user story. Is it done or is it not? I'm probably not going for the accepted, but at least the completed. And that to me is definitely progress. So as soon as you complete something, that's good. Having a lot of stuff in progress is basically defocusing. You're not being focused enough. So you're not delivering. I'd rather have the team having few things in progress and start delivering them one at a time, than actually trying to go for all of them and then probably finishing all of them later on the sprint. So avoid having a lot of stuff in progress. Usually what I say is, if at the beginning of the second week you have like 4, 5, 6 user stories in progress, you're going to have carryovers. And that's what we are now going to talk about. So carryovers. Does everybody know what the carryover is? So you have a user story in the sprint, you don't complete it, so basically carryovers to the next sprint. And that's a huge problem, right? Because we set expectations, we fail meeting the expectations, we ruin all the roadmaps. It kills the morale of the team, because obviously the team, more than anyone, wants to deliver everything that they committed and people expect to. But yes, this ruins everything. People starts to get uncomfortable, stressed, leads to distrust. So like the product owner, stakeholders with the team. So again, watch out for having stuff in progress and make them complete. Watch out for carryovers. Watch out for what you commit to. And that's the thing. I'd rather have my team committing to a little bit less and knowing for sure that we are going to deliver everything than trying to commit to a lot more and knowing for sure that we are going to have carryovers. So this is probably the worst thing that can happen to a team. Daily Scrum stand-up. I just have one advice for you guys today, and that's pretty much don't do them on the meeting room. Obviously, if it is completely necessary, because I don't know, you have a remote worker, colleague, sorry, yes, then we need a VC or so. Otherwise, if you're not hiding anything, do it next to your work area. Hopefully in front of your physical board, that you should have one. So yes, don't hide yourself. It doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, it's just 15 minutes, so what's the problem in doing next to where you work with? So that's my piece of advice. Show and tell, demo, sprint review. To me, this is probably the most important ceremony and the one that I see more often being skipped. So now, the vast majority of the projects are all web-based, so we just send an email to the product owner or the stakeholders with a link. People see it, what they receive. They are happy, they'll send us a good email. If they are not happy, they're probably going to phone us complaining about it. So you should always have show and tells on your sprints. No matter if it is just one at the end of the sprint, like a big one, or if as soon as you complete the user story and it's quite important and you want to release it, then do it like a mini show and tell right there, and making sure that you engage with your product owner, with your stakeholders, that you understand feedback in first hand, because emails back and forth are not healthy and not good, and the communication basically gets lost. Retrospective. So, when in retrospectives, forget about retrospectives where everybody just speaks. They are not useful. You should give time for people to think. So you're in the meeting room, like in a meeting, whatever you want to call it, a ceremony of 1 hour, and you're asking everyone to remember what happened on the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks of work. So you need to give time for people to think. So hand them Post-its, let them write what they are thinking of, and then let's put them against the wall and discuss it. And that's the proper way to do it. Because if you're actually using this method, you're giving voice to everyone, right? Because there is always someone that speaks more and louder than the other ones, like me, for instance. So yes, give voice to everyone. Everybody should be heard. All feedback is completely valuable. So you should make sure that everybody writes something on the Post-it and contributes to the retrospective. And after that, don't try to take like 10 action points. You can't change the world in one go. So take small steps. Take 1, 2, maybe like maximum 3 action points to try to solve them on the next sprint. Like small changes make everything worth it. So don't try to change everything at one time. And yes, last but not least, don't quit Scrum just because. So remember that, like everything in life, we have a learning curve in front of us. So as we go along, life gets easier and we get better in what we are doing. I'm quite surprised because every time I read something online or people talk to me saying, oh yeah, we just quit Scrum. Why? Oh, because of our release process or because of our test process. What Scrum has to do with that? If you look to the Scrum guide, it says nothing about release or testing. So again, it's like Scrum is a really lightweight framework that basically is going to bring visibility, clarity to your problems. So get rid of the problems, don't get rid of the tool or the framework that is actually helping you and pointing them out. So yes, get rid of them, of your issues, of your problems. So if you want actually to quit Scrum, that's fine also, but do it for the right reasons. That's pretty much it. Don't just quit because you have some trouble. Like, okay, so I'm putting everything just below the rug and everything is going to be fine. Doesn't make sense. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Thanks.